Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Now celebrating 17 years of broadcasting success, here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again, both for our radio audience here in Mississippi at WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com. We're glad that you all could be with us. Also, those joining us through our online affiliates, thanks to iHeartRadio and Amazon Music Podcasts. We're glad you all could be with us as well. We're excited to welcome actor Gene Silvers to our program today. Gene is an actor that's been able to do what he loves in a way that all of us now have been able to see, especially on some big projects this year. We'll talk to him about the acting journey, what it's been like for him to be able to find his place and to see the response to his work, and also to let you guys know what you should be on the lookout for from Gene as we're going throughout the rest of 2021 as well. Gene, glad to have you on with us.
Oh, thank you, Cyrus. Happy to be on the show.
So you've had quite the busy 2021, which I know everyone is excited about, not only people in the entertainment industry to be, to have projects to talk about, but also we're excited to have something new to be able to watch. What has it been like for you as we're kind of now halfway through 2021? It's hard to believe. What has it been like for you to kind of reflect on this year so far, Gene?
Well, it's, there's been so much. If this was like a normal year where I got to do a couple of great acting projects, that would be phenomenal on its own. But, when you mix COVID into it and all we've all had to deal with that, it makes things a little more complicated. Not to mention, to throw into the mix, before the first project that I worked on very early in the year of 2020, I was in a horrible, almost life-ending ski accident. So during a lot of that year, I was healing up from that. And actually, at one of the shows that I'm on, Mosquito Coast, you can see me wearing a cast on my arm because that accident happened just before we shot it.
Wow.
So there's a lot to talk about, both great stuff and stuff that's been challenging for me.
Yeah. Well, I think that goes to what you just shared there, Gene, and I wasn't sure how much of that you wanted to get into, but that brings me to something that was actually said about you back in April by someone who you know well, Jonathan Erickson, and this is what he wrote about you on Instagram. He said, Gene is one of the hardest working actors I get the privilege to represent. He has the best attitude and is always willing to put in the work, and it's with great pride I'm giving him the biggest congratulations. When you hear from people in the industry that have worked with you, Gene, on how much they're excited about your success, how does that make you feel about this journey?
Well, that feels fantastic. When people know your work and they admire it or they want to work with you again. It says a lot. I take pride in that because I'm not. It's well. First of all, one of the shows then was a director that I worked with 20 years ago. Just to go to that point, and he had remembered me for over 20 years and gave me a shot at the part in that show. So putting in hard work and really trying to do a good job, at least to the best of my ability, and seeing that it gets recognized and people want to work with you, that's what it's all about.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gene.
Oh no. I never actually heard that quote that you told me from Jonathan Erickson either, so that was really nice to hear that.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes to, you never know the impact, of course, for one, that we have on others, but also, they're wanting to publicly let people know how they feel about your work. So how did this all begin for you, Gene? What was it about acting that spoke to you?
Well, that's kind of an interesting question. I actually started out as a kid being a magician, a professional magician. My father got me into it, and over the years, as I was performing, my dad actually said, "Why don't you try acting?" Which is kind of interesting coming from a parent, because most parents, you wouldn't encourage their kids to be actors. But my dad was he was an artist, a painter, a sculptor, and he was forced to become a pharmacist, a job that he didn't enjoy at all, in order to make money and support the family. So he was a bit of a frustrated artist himself, and he was encouraging me to follow my dreams. So he suggested I try acting. I went into a couple of plays in high school, and there was a moment I had on stage where I just totally connected with the material. I totally connected with the actor across from me. The audience disappeared, and it was just a thrilling moment, a very pure moment of acting. And, you know, you're lucky if you have many of those in your career, when it just becomes about the involvement, the scene. It's not about trying to show off or be famous or any of those things. It's just having that pure experience of being that character, of expressing yourself, of expressing some emotions that were trapped inside of you, and here's your chance to kind of let it out, and it's witnessed by an audience. It's a thrilling moment, and I had that experience, and after that, I was like, I want more of this. This was very liberating, and it was at that point that I decided I wanted to pursue acting.
Yeah. And now here you are able to bring different types of characters to life. Do you find that that's also part of the joy for you, Gene, that you're not only doing work that you love, but being a part of projects that you love being a part of?
Oh, of course. There's so much stuff that isn't great out there and isn't very deep, and it's just entertainment. And I'm a character actor, so I've never really been a lead actor. So a lot of the parts that I get offered or have the opportunity to play are pretty varied. You know, I guess for years I complained that people really didn't know what type I was, because in Hollywood they often try to type you to give you something that you do well. They keep casting you in the same thing again and again. You know. Interestingly, I'm Dutch in them, and so my next audition after that was a Dutch character. So that's kind of the way it works. But because of my look, I don't really fit into any specific category. I've always been lucky to have very, very varied kinds of characters. And I think that's great, to be able to create different types of characters that can express different sides of yourself. And when I have the opportunity to do that, and it's well written, you know, and it's with other actors that put their hearts into it, it can be a joy. You know, there are times it can certainly be frustrating, but to be in projects like that, yes, it's the reason I act.
Yeah. And the way that we're able to enjoy projects, especially because of the pandemic, have definitely become more important. What has that been like for you to see in real time, though, Gene, how people are responding to those that have been available on the streaming platforms?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? You went
Sure.
out just for a second.
Yeah, no problem. No, I'm just asking you because of the way that we now have been enjoying a lot of content has really been through the streaming site. So what has that been like for you in real time to see the way that people have been responding to your work as they're watching it at home?
Oh, it's great. A lot of my earlier work was all network TV, you know, which is great, but once the show airs, it's kind of gone till the network decides to show it again, however many months or years later that is. But on streaming platforms, you know, your work always exists. It always exists there. So it's great. You can just tell somebody about it and they can watch it, or your fan base will keep growing because it just stays on the streaming platform. And hopefully the show gets a buzz and it continues to grow. So the streaming platforms are great in that way. You know, I can tell someone to watch it and they can watch it. It's not like network TV. But, you know, on the other hand, on network TV, you'd get residuals every time it aired. So financially, it's a little different. But
right.
But yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, it does. It does. But it brings up this question also. Have you, have you gotten used to then at this point seeing yourself in action?
You know, I like a lot of actors. A lot of actors I respect, by the way, do not like seeing themselves because we're very subjective, and or I am. I'll listen to my voice and I'll think, oh, I hate my voice, or I'll look at my face and I'll think, oh my God, I just look terrible, or I could have acted that moment. I see all the things that are wrong, and it's really rare that I see myself and I go, wow, I was great, Oftentimes, maybe at first I won't like myself, and maybe sometime later or years later I'll come to appreciate what I did. But it's both exciting to see myself on screen and kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I tell you, it's one of those interesting things, as you mentioned. I mean, and I've heard that. It's funny you said that, because I have heard that from some actors I've had on the broadcast, that they don't normally watch themselves unless it's a situation where they're live tweeting with an audience, when something is showing on network television. Typically, it's not something they enjoy doing. So it sounds like for yourself, then, you really have an appreciation, Gene, of the present. So I have to ask you, how do you balance that while still preparing for what's to come? How do you balance enjoying what you've done, but also looking forward to what's ahead?
That's an interesting question. Well, enjoying what you've done, I mean, you can always look back on what you've done and hopefully feel some pride in it, unless you've done something crappy and you don't feel pride in it, which then I do have a couple of projects like that I wish I hadn't done and would disappear. But certainly stuff that I'm proud of, it's always there. You can be having a crappy day or not feeling you're getting anywhere, and then look back at your work and you can say, no, I have done something, and so yeah, there's that. But an actor's only as good as his last project,
Yeah.
Like I've had some huge Law and Orders I did years ago where I was Emmy-nominated guest leads, and which I thought, after looking at it after a while, I thought, what, I was good in that. But it's getting on many years now, and it's like, okay, I was like a different person back then.
Yeah.
So it's always about what have you just done, and that's how the industry also looks at you. It's always, what is the latest thing that you've done? So I'm feeling pretty happy that both these projects are super recent. But it is then about, okay, well, now I have to take that and use the currency of what I just did to hopefully get me more interest or get me into the next project, and which interestingly, in a couple of hours I'm leaving to shoot an independent film. I'm literally right in the middle of packing right now, and I'm going to be shooting an independent film tomorrow morning, which is my latest project.
Love that. Love that. Well, that's a great segue then, Gene, because I've really enjoyed this time with you. How can our audience stay connected with you to kind of keep up with what's coming up next?
Well, I'm not a social media person. I do have a Facebook page. It's Gene Silvers. So people could just look me up on Facebook. Okay. And I would love them to watch the shows that I'm in. One is called Them, and I'm in episode 9. It is a difficult show to watch, though. I have to warn you.
Right.
But an interesting show. And Mosquito Coast, episode 2. It's a super interesting show. So I'd love it for people to watch it. They're both good shows. And my Facebook page and like that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So make sure you guys are staying connected with him on Facebook. And as he mentions, he has a show on our partner at Amazon as well as on Apple as well. So make sure you guys are stay tuned for that. Gene, really great to have you on the program today. Thank you so much for this. Safe travels to you, and we look forward to our next conversation together.
All right, Cyrus. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you having me on.
Okay, glad to do it. Glad to have you. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. Now let's go make today amazing. Take care.